la la la. Hello, we're back again with another video. If you're new here, I'm Alice. We talk about books, we do vlogs, car vlogs, lifestyle, a little bit of everything. So if you're looking for someone to stick on in the background whilst you're making yourself a meal, cleaning your room, doing that thing you've been putting off for the longest time, or you just want someone to listen to, then I'm your gal. So consider hitting that subscribe button. Come on in, join the family. It's free. You can unsubscribe at any time. So, you know, try something new today. Go on, you go for it. And if you're a returning viewer, thank you so much for your continued support. Sorry about the lighting situation. It's getting dark again in the morning, so it's got to be done. It's got to be done. What are we talking about today then? Woo! The video, as promised, Twisted Hate. This one was quite a meaty one. Again, stayed in very good contact. The spine did bend in a little bit, but you can't really notice it. So whoever made these versions of this, thanks, because they've kept in great condition. So let's talk about it. I'm gonna be honest, guys. I'm gonna be honest. I was disappointed. I was disappointed. I know we'd set it up in the past, but I don't know. There's just something about the fact that like they both got with each other's best friends, and I don't know, it's weird. Like you have Ava and Alex, and then now you've got Josh and Jules. I just felt like, oh, we've kind of been there. I know that it was a different scenario, and it was the whole like they hate each other, and then a no strings attached thing. But I just wasn't that interested, to be honest. And I actually think, I never expect to say this, but I actually think I preferred Ava and Alex to these two. I think these might be my least favourites so far. So, I don't know, maybe I'm being a little bit unfair, but I just thought I'd like it maybe a little bit more, but it wasn't really my favourite. There were some good moments in there. It was very spicy, actually, a lot of spice, a lot of pages to fill, but it's not my favourite, basically. Well, I'll tell you my review and then you'll see a little bit more, right? So I gave this book 2.5 stars. Now that might be a little bit generous. I think on Goodreads I gave it 2 because you can't give half stars. Maybe that's more appropriate. I gave it 5.5 out of 10, sort of 5.5. It wasn't bad, like there was good things in it, interesting things, and I really liked how they went into the world of lawyers and doctors. That was quite fun, but it just wasn't my favourite. And I'm so sorry if you really liked this one. I still am really enjoying the series, and I think I'm 100 pages into the final one, which means I'm about 1/5 of the way through, and that's already great redemption for what this book lacked. So I have hopes. I still have hopes for the series, but yes, this was not my favourite one. Maybe I just didn't resonate as much, and also, well, not that you would really resonate with any of them because they are a bit more far-fetched dark romance. Nobody's typically living that life. I mean, people are, but not me. I know. Anyway, let's talk about the review. So as per all the other Twisted series, I gave this max chilies. Definitely spicy series. Lots of bits and bobs going on. This was probably actually the spiciest book so far. I don't know what we've got in store for us, but this has definitely been the spiciest book so far, which is maybe why it wasn't as much of my favourite, because I love spice as much as the next person, but I definitely do like the development more, and I like to resonate with the characters, and maybe that's what I was lacking in here. If asked would I recommend this book, I said yes to dark romance beginners. I feel like this series is quite good for someone who hasn't read dark romance before, because there's elements in there that aren't as intense as some of the other books I've read. So I would say that in this series it's a good one to start with. So snaps and claps. So I said I'm not really too sure how I feel about this one. I think I was definitely a little disappointed. I got a lot of cringe feelings, which I didn't really like, and I didn't really feel like I could get lost in the book. It was a little bit more draggy for me. I didn't read it as quick as I'd read the other ones. I wasn't just like, sorry if that was a bit weird. I did say that this could have been due to the fact that I didn't connect with the characters as much. Like, I wasn't really rooting for either of them. It was just something, I wasn't too sure. I feel like when you've got like 4 characters, you're always gonna have your least favorite one, and maybe they just happen to be my least favorite boy and my least favorite girl, you know? I don't know. Yeah, I just didn't really connect. I think when I started reading it and some of the way Jules was sort of thinking about herself and stuff like that, I was like, oh, okay, yeah, we're giving her depth and all of this jazz. But I feel like Miss Combs was kind of attempted, but I don't know, I just don't know if it was done in the best way, personally. So yeah, if you love this book, obviously you love it, you're allowed to love it, that's fine. This one just wasn't my favourite. Also, disclaimer, please always read the trigger warnings before you read anything, especially dark romance. We want happy and safe readers out there, so go check those out online. I did enjoy the overlapping with the other stories and how I was adding a few elements in. And in this book, I actually really liked Alex. We had a redemption for Alex, who wasn't my favourite person in his own book, but I quite liked him in this book. I thought he was a good character. So snaps and claps for Alex in this one. It kind of gave me Devil's Night vibes when you actually ended up liking the main character in someone else's book with Alex, but also kind of with Josh. I feel like when he was, I don't know, maybe I did like him more in this book, but I'm not sure it was fully my vibe. Maybe it was the tropes that I'm not as into. I don't know, just wasn't my best vibe. That being said, after finishing this book, I was really excited to start reading the 4th and final book. That was good, obviously. It kind of like helped to build that up. And I'm definitely not trying to get my expectations too high because I want to give it a fair judgment, the final book, which is what I've tried to do with all of these. So fingers crossed that Stella brings the redemption for the whole series. On the whole, I didn't hate it. It just wasn't my favourite one, and that's okay. You know, everyone's gonna have favourites in the series, and this one just didn't happen to be it, and that's all right. You know, we're not gonna love every single book we ever read, but would I take it back that I've read it? No, I'm glad I read it, and it was an enjoyable enough time. It just wasn't one of my favourites. I was definitely glad that I read this. In the grand scheme of things, you know, it added to the plot. Whether I would have picked it up on its own if it was a standalone book based on these tropes, not too sure. In the series, I definitely still appreciated it. I did like that there was some enemies to lovers vibe, but it wasn't really the enemies to lovers I was kind of used to, so maybe that was a factor as well. I just felt like it just didn't hit the same. I wasn't convinced that they hated each other, even though I was convinced they hated each other. It was just a little bit confusing, a little bit easy in places, a little bit too much in places. I don't know, I feel like it just needed a little bit more refinement in some areas. That was all. It just wasn't my favourite execution of enemies to lovers. That's the best way I think I could put it. I kind of prefer it in maybe some other circumstances. Nonetheless, I still appreciate the attempt. So, as I always say, just because someone doesn't like a book doesn't mean you can't like it, and vice versa. If you love this book, own it and love this book. If you don't like this book, you don't like this book. It is what it is. But I just think of the 3 I've read so far, this maybe just disappointed me a little bit because I really did still enjoy the other 2. Granted, they're not the best things I've ever read in the world, but without being horrible, I don't think I ever expected them to be the best thing I ever read in the world, because it's a different type of genre, you know. Dark romance is kind of guilty pleasure. It's kind of very like fictionalized, something sort of out the box, maybe something you're not used to reading, and I really appreciate that as a genre. So, you know, it's always going to be different to reading some classic or cult classic or whatever super famous book, because it's just a slightly different genre, and that's okay. I actually am very much being more converted to the dark romance. I definitely, now I'm sort of almost finished this series, I would be very tempted to continue to explore other books. I want to go back to the Hooked. I want to try, I'm a little bit nervous for this one, but I want to try like Haunting Adeline. I know that's kind of like next step up. So there's lots of books in this genre that now have been unlocked to me because in my head I feel like I needed to read the Twisted series first. And I would say this feels like a good introduction to dark romance. It's not too much to the point where you're like, what on earth is going on? There's so much intensity, so much craziness, because I kind of felt that a little bit with Hooked. It was just a lot, whereas I feel like these have kind of made a really nice balance between dark romance but also just generic romance and more like day-to-day stuff too. There's definitely some far-fetched stuff that goes on in these books, but I don't know, it's done in a better way. So, you know, snaps and claps for Miss Anna. Iconic. Like I said, even though it's not my favourite book, doesn't mean that I hate the series, doesn't mean that I don't want to continue reading on, and I'm very, very, very excited to see how we're going to end. And, you know, green is my favourite colour, the last book is green, so I'm hopeful, I'm hopeful. I think that's everything for today. I think I've waffled on enough. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to give it a big thumbs up, smash that like button, and don't forget to subscribe. Have you subscribed? Thank you very much. And as always, until the next one, I'll see you then. Bye! Crunch. I think that's everything for today. I think I've waffled a lot. If you haven't, go read this series. Go on. Might as well. Treat yourself. Make sure you read those trigger warnings, alright? Have fun.